And hello from Sofa to Success. Welcome to Control Your Habits and Control Your Life.
That's it.
Yeah. So, yes, that happened. We're talking about, your
No,
habits.
carry on with that voice.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how to control your life by controlling the habits that you have.
Drop it. Yeah,
Did I
okay.
change it? I should have changed it. I'm going to keep it like this. I like this.
I don't think people would like that.
We're talking about habits, guys, and habits are really, really important, okay? Because, ultimately they make or break you. We're talking about things like your procrastination, how to beat that, how to beat binge watching TV,
Junk food.
hashtag triggered, smoking, right? Little simple stuff, right? Things that we may not think about and things that we obviously know, like we just said. Smoking is something you pick it up, you're conscious. But there are things that we do on a daily basis that we're not conscious about and it really messes us up.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about actually what are habits, what are micro and macro habits, and how you can get rid of a bad habit, how you can instill a good habit in yourself, and what is habit stacking, how you can stack several habits, and how to evaluate your habit and how you see you progressing or not.
Yeah.
So Jeremy, just if you give a good breakdown of what's the habit, if you go in deep, how do you define a habit?
Well, let me start off by saying a quote or a riddle that I heard when I went to a seminar going back 3 years ago. Changed my life. So it's a riddle that goes like this. I can destroy you from the inside out, or I can lay success at your feet effortlessly. My name is habit. Right? And so what that means is...
Which seminar was it?
This is when I was part of my multi-level marketing and I went to Malaysia. Yeah.
Taught you some good stuff.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man, many things there, right? But without getting off topic, honestly, it's such a big game changer when I heard that, because it made me understand. I was like, wait a freaking second. Are you telling me that a habit that I have every single day, right, can result to me being in a position that I'm not happy with in my life, and also vice versa, could also help me to be happy with where I am, right?
Yeah.
Something as simple as, making the choice of, exercising every day, right? Which becomes a habit. Something as simple as, having water in the morning, hydration. And so really habits are just the simple little things that we do every single day, that we do it every day for a week, for a month, for a year, and it leads to an accumulation of an outcome, right? Whether it's good or it's bad. So smoking for 1-2 days does nothing. But if you smoke every day and you do that for 1 year, for 5 years, for 10 years, well, that's when all the sickness comes, right?
Yeah.
So it's about consistency in good things and bad things.
Yeah.
And I guess habits really are just things that are internal that we don't think about sometimes. And sometimes, like I said, they are.
Yeah. Sometimes you just don't even know you've been doing this pattern for a long time, and it's just instilled in you. It becomes your identity to be doing that thing. And no matter how many times people try to disassociate from that identity, from not doing those things, it's get harder because it's such an ingrained habit.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, unless someone comes and brings it up to you and says you're doing this, you may not even realize that you're doing something so destructive.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like, people don't think about these things, just how much of a difference it makes in their life. Like you may have the ritual of waking up and, going and getting a drive-through coffee with a muffin from McDonald's every morning. And that's just your breakfast, right? But shit, diabetes around the corner. You know what I mean? Like, you don't think about the consequences of something as simple as that.
I think this is where habits can be dissected into micro and macro habits, where macro habits are the things that we are doing consciously, like going to get a coffee. You're actually sitting in the car, driving there. You're doing it consciously, but getting that cookie is a micro habit. You still get used to getting it with it, and you don't think about it much, but you're still doing it.
That's right.
Like little micro habits include like something like snoozing. Someone's like
Yeah.
stays in bed and like if they're doing like 15 snoozes and they
Press that button.
wake up 2 hours later and they feel bad shit about themselves.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
these kind of habits people just do without actually realizing that they're doing these habits. And like even like the dessert after meal, eating a dessert after the meal is a
Yeah.
habit that everyone has. Not everyone, a lot of people has, which
Yeah, that's right.
it's not for every occasion. For some time it's fine, but not all the time.
Well, one of my, I just got back in the train of doing one-on-one health coaching, and so I had one of my clients, and she messaged me, what can I have for a dessert after my dinner? And so I just asked her, I'm like, are you hungry after dinner? And she goes, oh, actually, no, I'm not. And she's like, oh, wait a second, I guess, that's just a habit that I've been doing. And I'm like, yeah, so let's start getting the roll of finding out. Man, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. And she's so used to doing it that she feels a void and a gap in that thing that
absolutely.
What should I fill it with?
Yeah, so now that's when I said, I'm like, look, if you need it, go get some strawberries, put something on the side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And then I think you got stuff like macro habits, right?
Yeah, so macro are the things that we are doing consciously, like reading a book or exercise, which are taking a big chunk of your time, but you're taking a conscious decision to go and do these things. So if you talk about good macro habits is exercising and reading a book, and bad macro habit is smoking. Like you need to buy the cigarette pack to smoke it. You need to light it up, and then you need to go somewhere to smoke it. So it's a properly conscious habit, but it's a big habit, macro habit. So you're doing it. Yeah. So you're conscious about it. Same as like binge watching television. You're watching TV for like if you turning it on might be a micro habit, but staying it on for 3 hours is a macro habit, and you're still watching it, and then you're gaining nothing out of it.
No, that's right.
So that accumulates to become a really big habit into you that wastes a lot of your productivity.
I love, like, if you speak about what you just said, you're like, the micro habit is to turn on the TV, and the macro one is to sit down and keep
follows
watching,
that.
right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, right, it's all about finding that trigger, which is usually the micro meaning minor, small thing, right? And so if we can actually pair those two together and identify, hold on, what's getting me to even get into this position, then we can start knowing, okay, well, maybe I've got to stop this, right?
Yeah.
And so if we talk about getting rid of these habits, it's really, really important to, first of all, I have a rule about habits, okay? So if you notice anything, if you just notice like things that you start doing and you're like, oh, that might not be so good for me, ask yourself a simple question and say, if I keep doing this every single day for 5 years, will it make me a better person or maybe worse?
People think it's cheesy, but it's really affects you. Like you are growing old, inevitably you're gonna grow old with the habits. Like it's like you're growing old with these habits you're installing in yourself. So where is this car going? So you have to think about it, what things you're installing in
until
yourself.
you ask that question,
you
don't really recognize, like it doesn't hit you because you're like, oh shit, if I you know what I mean, like if I tell you to pluck one single hair from your head every single day, after a week you don't notice it. After 5 years you might not have much hair left on that head.
Definitely.
And so it's that little thing. So if we want to get rid of a habit, which I'm going to give some examples for, okay, in terms of procrastination. It's a big one, okay?
I used to suffer from massive. I still am a master procrastinator, I would say now, because I put my things off in a timeline where I can have my focus bubble.
Yeah.
But that's still something I need to work on.
You make procrastinating efficient. This is not what we're here about, guys. But it's...
Everybody suffers from basically procrastination.
I was just going to say, if I tell you who I am, and most people, like, I always used to listen to this guy, I've mentioned him a few times, Andy Frisella, MFCEO, you know, and this guy is like an absolute, he's off the charts. And he always used to call himself, this is when I first started listening to podcasts, he always used to call himself the laziest person on earth. And I'm like, you've got such a ridiculous, company, and your bank account would probably make me cry for 8 years straight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are you saying you're lazy? And I understand what he means, obviously, now. Back then, I was like, what?
Same thing goes a bit off on habit and discipline can be synonyms together. But right. Joe Rogan talks about that. He says, like, I'm the laziest disciplined person I know. And, like, that guy's done, like, pretty much so many things, like, he invented this whole podcast genre, if you talk about it.
That's true.
And then he did stand-up comedy, mixed martial art. Now he's a commentator. Like he's such a big influencer,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he still gets shit done because he's still lazy, but
knows
he's
he
a
has to.
disciplined lazy person.
You know, and what I love about that is this is where I'm going to talk about how we can actually use that into creating a good habit to beat
Yeah.
procrastination. Because we're all, I'm a master procrastinator too. I just have to learn how to avoid that, right? And so the first thing is, like I said, ask that question. Then what you want to do is you want to actually identify. So here are the steps, okay? I've got 4 steps that I've come up with. And these are the way that I go about things when I find a habit. And to me, it's the biggest game-changing thing I've ever done, right? So first of all is identifying that habit. Yeah. Okay. Is this good? Is this bad? And
That's very crucial too.
oh yeah. So that's the biggest thing. If you can identify it, then you have to start looking and saying, okay, so this is part of rule 1. What are the triggers? Okay. Identifying what are the triggers that make you do that, which may be, for example, watching TV. Your trigger may be sitting down on the couch when you're tired, because then what else do you have to do, right?
Yeah.
And then we have to remove that. So identify your trigger. Identify your bad habit. Identify the trigger and then remove it. And the second thing we do is we find out what can we replace that bad habit with. Obviously a good one, but what good habit can we replace it with?
Yeah.
And then or manage it. The third one is to then actually use the desire of wanting to do that bad habit, right? Or wanting to watch TV as an actual trigger to go and do something good instead.
Yeah.
So an example is, if I have the desire to say, hey man, I just want to sit down and watch TV. As soon as that thought comes in, I almost use that thought as if it's telling me, oh shit, now I actually have to go and do something good.
So redirect link to somewhere else.
Yeah, it's redirect link. I love that. It's a redirecting link, right? So it's a trigger. And that's a really, really important tool that I've been using forever. And then number 4 is to just keep being conscious of it, because we can fall right back into the loop.
Give us an example how you use this with yourself.
So we'll talk about procrastination right now, yeah?
Yeah.
So when it comes to procrastination, whenever I know that everything I do always can be a form of a habit, right? So I can either create a habit, break a habit, or continue on. And I want to procrastinate all day long. So the minute that my mind says, I don't want to do this, I say, shit. I literally just told myself I have to.
Challenge accepted.
I literally just challenged myself and I'm like, Jeremy, stop telling yourself you're not going to do this.
You're not going to do 10 push-ups here.
By the way, I'm doing them right now for the user on audio. 2.
No, he's not.
So, here's first I'll give another example I used to do in the gym, okay? Back when I was in my days on the weight loss journey, I would be doing an exercise and I'm like, oh damn, I just want to stop right now. I'm going to stop early. And I'm like, oh shit. I've literally just added another 10 minutes of my time. Because I said I have to stop, so now I have to keep going. And I swear to you, what could have been 30 minutes went to an hour.
It's funny, I did the same thing today when I was training. I was doing the tricep and ab crunch leg raise over there outside. And then I was coming back and I thought that was a weak ass set, pathetic. And then I was like, I could at least do 50 more. And then I just turned back and I did 50, 50, 50 on all of them.
Nice, that's my man. And that's what it's all about, right? So let's use this in procrastination. This happens to me every single day, and I'm aware of it because I know that I'm aware of it because I am lazy internally.
We're all humans. It's human. People want to preserve energy. That's like the survival, preserving energy, and mating. These are few of the things.
It's just
natural
a normal
instincts.
thing.
Yeah.
And so here's how I do it. So I get up, and the first thing is I know that I don't want to get up from snooze. I want to get up from my alarm. So the very first thing I do is I don't give myself time to say an excuse as to why I'm not getting up.
Yeah.
Quick turn off, jump straight out of bed. All right. Then, I may go and, you ever throw something in the bin and it misses?
Yeah.
Okay. And the thought is, I'll pick it up later. Nah, I have to pick it up now. Right. So all these sorts of little things like procrastination, I should go and read a book. Oh, no, I don't feel like, shit. Yep. I'm going to go do it now.
Yeah.
And so anytime I have the thought of not doing something, I challenge myself and say, hey, that's it.
As you said about the sleeping one, that can also be used to get rid of the bad micro habit of snoozing.
Yeah.
You can just put your phone in a bit farther location where you can't reach it unless you have to get up and turn it to snooze.
Yeah.
So it'll keep ringing until you turn that thing
That's
off.
like, yeah, when it's something defeating you and you're like, man, this is tough, you put measures in place to make sure you do stick with it, yeah?
Yeah, as we spoke about it before, like for the stronger self, making decisions for the weaker self.
Exactly right.
Make
It's
this-
the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what it all comes down to. So after that, what I do then is, I go and, let's talk about TV. I would go and sit down or even scrolling, whether it's TV, binge watching, or it's scrolling on your phone. You sit down on the couch because you're tired.
Everyone's guilty of scrolling on the phone.
And so what do? You've got nothing to do. And so all of a sudden there's the remote. Bang, turn it on, binge watch, Netflix. You've just watched 18 hours. You're now a zombie. Tomorrow you're tired. You don't go to work. No.
Now you know about something that never happened.
Right, yeah. And, that was good. And so all of a sudden you just created this really bad effect. And so you have to look at where did it start, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing is I find out, obviously identified, hey, watching TV, not good. Second, I say, what was my trigger? Okay. So I know maybe that when I was tired, or maybe when I was feeling unmotivated, what I do is I go and sit on that couch and I stare at the TV until I turn the TV on. So now I have to say, okay, well, how do I stop that? Okay, what can I do to replace that? The feeling that I have whenever I know that I feel like I want to sit down on the couch because I'm tired, well, shit, now I can't do that because I know what's going to happen. It's a domino effect. So what I'm going to do instead is, okay, maybe I'm going to choose, you know what, when that happens, instead, I'm going to pick up a book and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to choose to read 15 pages of a self-development book. Or I'm going to choose to instead, when that thought comes to mind, okay, I'm not going to sit down on the couch, I'm going to go for a 20-minute walk around the block. You know? And so that's how I just keep doing it. And then obviously you just have to be aware of it constantly. Because otherwise it'll creep up on you and one day you'll say, no, I'll just sit down on the couch today. And then all of a sudden you can create another bad loop. Yeah. So in terms of actually introducing a good habit, what's the way you would go about that?
I think, like as you were speaking about, the main crux of it is any habit is because of a cue. You get a cue, the trigger you spoke about.
Yep.
You get that cue, then you have the craving to do that thing. Then you get you do the response of it, and then you get the reward from it. So you instill a new habit, you need to address these things. So to have that cue, you need to make that thing like easily spottable. Like if you want, for example, if I take the example of training, if I want to train, I'll put my gym clothes ready for me to train a night before, as we spoke about before as well, like keep it ready. So it's there. You have the trigger. You wake up and you see, all right, my shoes are set, my clothes are set, I have to go. That's making it easy. Then the next part is making it attractive. To make it attractive, there are different people have different triggers to make it attractive. Some people like new clothes to go to the gym. That can make it attractive for them.
Incentive,
like
right?
Incentive, yeah. So you can have that incentive, or you can have an incentive of a really nice dude you train with or a girl you train with, and you enjoy their company. That can be incentive to chill with them, and you can train and then still be with that person.
A good example was what we're listening to today, right? If you want that protein bar, then you're only allowed to have the protein bar after your workout. So you have to work out to have it.
That comes later in the satisfying part. So that's when it's finished, then you have it. So to get there, you need some attraction. So you have that attraction, and the protein bar is also attraction. And then when you finish that action, then you reward yourself with that cookie or that smoothie or that protein bar, whatever you want to have. And then next time these things happen, you get this trigger. Trigger is the hardest part. And then you get this attraction, and then you get to the habit, and then you make it satisfying.
So the trigger is basically now the opposite, right? So instead of using, you find the trigger originally that you want to avoid for a bad habit, but now you want to create a trigger for a good habit. Yeah,
and in the beginning, it's important to use, make it easy. So you need to give yourself the trigger, make it attractive, make it easy with smaller goals. Because if you start if I start with tomorrow I need to deadlift 500 lbs, it won't be possible unless you go smaller steps. So you have to make it easy, and then you have to make it satisfying. So
give me an example of as well. I'm just curious because now the reward one can be dangerous, right? Can be dangerous, because you may say, all right, I'll do this, and you've got all of a sudden 10 different things that you created, which means 10 cookies. So how would you get around that? Would you have to create a barrier and say, okay, well, if it comes to sweets, there's only max one sweet a day, something like that?
Well, you need to start with what actually you're craving, but you need to slowly pivot from it. That doesn't mean you can do 10 cookies in a day. But you need to be your own critic to know, like, okay,
It's too much.
this is adding too much to my bad health. So maybe next satisfaction that I can have maybe can be from posting an Instagram post about my workout, or my
Nice.
next satisfaction could be playing games for 20 minutes on my Xbox. So
Yeah.
so you don't damage one area completely with like doing everything great and then you're having
So everything good
diabetes.
here, and because you're doing good here, now you can be bad there.
And
right?
and slowly that satisfaction, or the main incentive, that satisfaction will fade away,
Yeah.
and then you will actually be enjoying that process, because it's a trick. It's like you see it, you do it, and it's done. And when it's done, you feel good that you've done that.
That's true.
So that becomes the satisfaction part. And if there's another important formula of getting more habits included in your routine, is you can do habit stacking. Habit stacking is like you stack one habit with the other one. So you can either do one after the other, or you can do one on top of the other, like a sandwich.
Yep.
So one of the things I
That's a
think
good example.
we both do is, if we're washing dishes or making a meal prep, we listen to a podcast. So we're
Yep.
learning something when we're doing it. Other things like everyday normal people can also do is, like when you're brushing your teeth, remember to floss. It's a micro habit, but
Yep.
you brush, people forget to floss, and then later on,
So you pair the two together,
yeah,
right?
pay them two together. You go for a run or you go for a walk, you can call a family, or you go for a run, you can come back and have your smoothie or whatever you wanted to have. If you are getting a 5-minute morning sun, you can think about what you're grateful for that, in the like 3 things you want to be
Yeah.
grateful for in the morning.
Yeah.
So stack these things together, so you get two good things done together.
I like it. So it's almost, you said before to me earlier when we were talking, it's like a precursor, right?
Yeah.
So because you do this, it can also, relate to you doing this.
Yeah, so
right?
this first habit becomes the trigger for the next habit already.
Yeah.
So this first habit is already like, when you're brushing it, you'll be like, okay, next is floss. So you already look for your hand reaches for the floss already. Or when you're going for a walk, you already look for the person you want to call and you haven't spoken to in a while. Or when you're making your meal prep, you already look for that podcast that you want to listen to when you're
I like it.
doing
I like it. Yeah, it's a really good way, and I think that's super important. And I find like, even talking at a larger scale of things, I know most people say once they start something good,
Yeah.
everything else good comes along as well, right? So if we talk about this, I think, you then just have to find out, well, how do we keep on top of all this? Because there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
First of all, we have to actually make sure that you don't try and change everything at once, because, well,
Start small.
yeah, we'll always start small, right? You don't go from level 1 to 10, because if you do, it's a guaranteed failure. Yeah, you have to make sure that it's something you can actually stick to every day. So we want to evaluate, right? Now, as one of the books that you read, Atomic Habits, right?
Yeah.
So what's his method in terms of actually keeping you accountable? He's got a calendar, right? He talks about getting the calendar,
Yeah.
and then sort of ticking every day, with a red check mark,
Yeah.
whether it's completed or not.
Yeah, so when you follow that, if you followed like 26 days, on 27th day you feel like you don't want to do it, you look at that calendar and you look at the queue like, okay,
shit.
I haven't given up yet. Like, what's the point? So that's kind of a visual trick as well for
I like
playing
that.
with yourself.
Yep.
And then it's a incentive and a boost for you to do one more day, but take the first small step, the rest will follow.
You almost see all those like, tick, 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 and you just don't want to leave it blank. So
Yeah.
it's almost like, oh shit, I gotta make sure. You know what? I'm tired.
Even if you
man.
do 10 minutes, 15 minutes,
Exactly, yeah.
but it's like keeping that habit.
Because
So-
in your mind, you probably think, I'm tired, I just want to go to bed. But man, I do not want to wake up with that empty
Yeah.
box right there. So it's a really good incentive. I think another
and
way
don't
is,
lie to yourself.
Yeah, well, you better not. And if you do, sugar, you're in trouble. Another one I used to do is when I started off, I'd get like a little notepad, or I'll do it on my phone. I've still got it on my phone all the days that I did it. And so I just write Monday, Tuesday, blah, blah, blah on the day itself. And I'll write down whatever habits I had. I usually have 1 or 2 habits to be in charge of, to try and make sure I'm, fixing. And so at the end of the day, if I didn't complete them all, I put a lose, an L sign. And if I won, I put W. And I did the same thing in a different way. So I just kept them all. So I want to scroll through every day. I've got a symbol of a
Yeah.
W.
Yeah.
I need to make sure I see win, 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 win.
Yeah.
And I want to win as many days as I can in that month.
So if you want something detailed like that, Atomic Habits website as well, he has a habit tracker which goes in a bit more detail. If you don't want to buy a calendar and stuff, or we can attach our
Yeah.
tracker and then you can have a look at that. but it's important to evaluate like where you're going and if you're still on the right track or not.
100%. I think, just be aware. To summarize, be aware of your habits, identify them, take a look. You've got all these patterns every day that we do that we don't even think about. Interrupt the patterns and challenge yourself and start questioning things that you do and ask, is this good? Is this bad? And I think that you'll slowly make your way to being the person you want to be.
Yeah, and decide who you want to be.
Well, yeah, first you have to decide.
Boo.
But if you're not sure, go on the journey and search. I don't know if this fits. But I think that's a wrap, son.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Let's wrap it.
Let's wrap it up.
Zip it up.
All right, guys. Ciao for now. And Sonny, choose something, man. If you're gonna look at it, he's trying to choose a sound. You got to look at the camera before we say goodbye, man.
Can't
finish it. All right, guys. See you, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Catch you on the next time.
Bye.